Arthur Fennell on News 10 at 5.
Good morning. The prosecution has rested. Now the defense takes its turn at the Oklahoma City bombing trial. Timothy McVeigh's attorneys will call their first witness today, Thursday, May 22nd, 1997.
From NBC News, this is Today with Katie Couric and Matt Lauer. Live from Studio 1A in Rockefeller Plaza.
And good morning and welcome to Today on a Thursday morning as we continue to keep our eye on that courtroom in Denver. I'm Matt Lauer.
And I'm Katie Couric. I guess a firefighter and yet another survivor provided a very emotional ending to the prosecution's case yesterday.
They certainly did. The total 137 witnesses over just 18 days. While most people say the prosecution did a very skillful job in presenting their case, the defense is counting on the fact that there may be some questions in the minds of the jurors, and they'll try to take advantage of those questions today. We'll bring Roy Black and David Gregory in to give us a preview of the defense case.
Also, Matt, we're going to be talking more about the case of Air Force Lieutenant Kelly Flynn. While some lawmakers are calling for dismissal of charges against her, the Air Force is now fighting back, and we'll hear their side of the story this morning. And we'll tell you the story of a New Jersey mom who's fighting to care for her kids, even though she's unable to completely care for herself. Matt?
Art Uline has part 2 of his series Allergy Relief. Today we'll talk about indoor allergens like molds and dust mites. Do you know what a dust mite looks like?
Those little things under the bed?
No, we found one in your apartment. Take a look at this.
I'm sure you found more than one.
There it is. That was from your apartment. You've got to clean under the bed more. You really do. That actually is not a dust mite. That is Gigantosaurus, the world's largest meat-eating dinosaur.
His teeth are actually gleaming
huge
in the morning light.
But you imagine all that size, the brain the size of a banana. And therein lies some of the problems.
I was going to say there's a joke there somewhere, but I'm going to restrain
Exactly.
myself.
Anyway, we'll talk about that and the lost world, all that coming up. But it's 7:01 over to the news desk and Ann Curry.
Good morning, Matt and Katie. Good morning, everybody. Today, the defense of Timothy McVeigh begins. This after an emotional wind-up by the prosecution that had some members of the jury in tears. Here's NBC's Kelly O'Donnell.
Today, Stephen Jones begins to give the jury what he calls the rest of the story.
We'll be ready.
Right now, the defense has about 30 people on its witness list to try to show that the bomber was not Timothy McVeigh.
His spirits are good.
The defense case centers in Junction City, Kansas, where the bomb truck was rented. The defense will challenge who rented the truck and when it was spotted at the Dreamland Motel where McVeigh stayed. First, the defense will call a witness who was at the motel and saw a truck there on Sunday, one day before the government says McVeigh rented the bomb truck. Later, the defense will call blast survivor Dana Bradley. She was so horribly trapped in the rubble, her leg had to be amputated at the scene.
You heal, but you don't exactly heal.
Bradley looked out the window as the Ryder truck pulled up. She saw a short, stocky man with an olive complexion get out of the passenger side. Moments later, the blast killed her mother and her 2 children. Bradley didn't see McVeigh.
The defense can begin by showing people who saw things that the government didn't talk about. More than one truck, different people, more than one person. All of it saying to the jurors, you haven't heard the whole story. In fact, you haven't heard the true story.
The defense is also expected to recall the government's last witness, Oklahoma medical examiner Dr. Fred Jordan, who verified all the victims' cause of death. The defense intends to reopen an old mystery and ask Dr. Jordan about human remains, a leg recovered from the blast. The government says the leg could be matched to one of the identified victims. But the defense suggests the limb could have belonged to an unknown person, perhaps the real bomber, perhaps the person Dana Bradley saw exit the Ryder truck, a person who is not Timothy McVeigh. Kelly O'Donnell, NBC News, Denver.
Last night, the Shuttle Atlantis and the Russian space station Mir went their separate ways. Using springs, then rockets, the crew of the Atlantis eased the shuttle away from the space station. Atlantis is expected to land on Saturday, bringing astronaut Jerry Linenger home after 4 months aboard Mir. Along the Mexican border with Texas this morning, U.S. Marines are nowhere to be found. They have been pulled back from their drug-fighting assignment because of the fatal shooting of a Texas teenager. Details from NBC's Ed Rabel.
The fatal incident happened here, desolate Texas border territory where outlaws move drugs and illegal immigrants. 18-year-old Ezequiel Hernandez, Jr. was carrying a .22 caliber rifle while tending his father's herd of goats when he encountered the squad of U.S. Marines.
They said that he shoot at them twice, and they didn't have the right to kill him. They could have shot him on a leg or arm, but not, that's all.
The Marines, a special reconnaissance team like this one, say they were watching a suspected drug trafficking route for the Border Patrol when the young goat herder fired twice. As he prepared to fire a third time, the Marines say they shot him in the chest. Part of the government's anti-drug Task Force 6, the Marines routinely act as the eyes and ears for the Border Patrol.
Military personnel on Joint Task Force 6 operate under the peacetime rules of engagement, and that allows them the right of self-defense. So if they are fired upon, it's within the realm that they would fire back.
Forbidden by law from stopping the drugs themselves, the Marines call in the Border Patrol when they detect drug runners. Still, the shooting of this young high school student has drawn sharp criticism from schoolmates and adults in the community who say that using troops along the border incites violence. Ed Rabel, NBC News, the Pentagon.
A high-ranking Miami police officer was formally charged Wednesday with battery and resisting arrest in a controversial case. It began as a traffic stop, and it turned ugly. The officer says he was targeted in part because he is black. More from Ariadzer.
It happened on the Florida Turnpike near Orlando, a tense confrontation between an off-duty police officer and Orange County Sheriff's deputies, captured by a dashboard camera.
Why would I violate law and see you guys sitting there?
Major Aaron Campbell of the Metro-Dade Police Department snatches his driver's license away, curses at the deputy, refuses to cooperate, and demands to see a supervisor as backup deputies arrive.
Hey, turn around, put your hands on top of your head right now. He's a deputy, he's armed with a gun.
He wasn't constituting a threat to anyone. He was demanding to see a supervisor. What kind of a country do we live in where a citizen pulled over for a traffic violation can't ask to see a sergeant?
Campbell's lawyer says the charges against his client, battery and resisting arrest, are outrageous. Campbell is a 26-year police veteran.
You're going to give me sprayed with pepper mace in about a second if you don't cooperate. You need to cooperate now. You're making this harder than it's going to be.
They were playing for the camera, they were deliberately baiting him, and they were looking for a chance to jump him, which they did.
The Orange County Sheriff's Office says its deputies acted appropriately, and if Campbell had cooperated, they say, he would only have received a written warning. Ariadzer, NBC News, Miami.
In New York last night, it was a late night for daytime as television's Daytime Emmy Awards were handed out. Susan Lucci's losing record is intact at 0 for 17 as she failed once again to win for Best Actress. That honor went to Jess Walton of The Young and the Restless. And Rosie O'Donnell accepted an Emmy for Best Talk Show Host, saying she was overwhelmed. It is now 7:08. Let's go back to Katie, Matt, and Emmy presenter Al Roker.
That's right. Al was there last night with his lovely bride, Deborah Roberts, presenting the award to Rosie O'Donnell, correct?
And Emmy nominee.
That's
Al
right.
Roker.
Yeah,
We should
Pat,
also
Matt
mention.
Sajak, who won for Best Game Show Host for Wheel of Fortune.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, it was a great time. It was a really wonderful time. And
Poor
Oprah,
Erica Kane, though.
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah. What are you going to do? Yeah. But, and Regis. Regis has gotten blown out now several times.
But not 17, right?
Well, he pointed that out. Hey, let's take a look, show you what's going on out there. Record cold Chicago, 38 degrees, and in fact, a little chilly for Oprah there at the Emmy Awards, but she was very gracious to Rosie, wishing her well. Lots of thunderstorms back through the Rockies, showers into the plains, down through Texas and the Gulf Coast. Again, pretty nice out west, and here in the Northeast, we've got some pretty nice weather, although a few showers left over in northern New England. That's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods.
Looking good today. Good morning. I'm Bill Henley with your Earthwatch forecast. Lots of wind once again today, but we'll see plenty of sunshine. The wind will keep our afternoon high in the 60s today, 68 degrees later today. 5-day forecast, though, shows a warming trend. Tomorrow up to 74 with lots of sunshine. Few clouds on Saturday, but up to 77 degrees and a possibility of showers, maybe even a thunderstorm, come Sunday, 73 the high. Have a great day.
7:09. Now here's Katie.
Thanks, Hal. On Close Up this morning, the case of Lieutenant Kelly Flynn, a decision on whether she's granted an honorable discharge rather than face a court-martial on charges of adultery and lying about it could come as early as today. But in the face of criticism from the public and Congress, the Air Force is now fighting back. Here's NBC's Jim Avila.
Her superiors say the court-martial of Lieutenant Kelly Flynn is not a witch hunt into the private life of a single 26-year-old woman charged with adultery.
I just want to thank everyone who's shown their support.
The Air Force says it's about national security and trust, essential for America's first female B-52 pilot whose job includes nuclear missions.
This is an issue about an officer who is entrusted to fly nuclear weapons, who disobeyed an order, who lied. That's what this is about.
The highest-ranking general in the Air Force reminded Congress Lieutenant Flynn is charged not just with adultery, but with disobeying an order to stop the relationship with a married man and with lying to cover up her affair.
We are very much interested in a thing called improper relationships that end up undermining the morale and discipline of an organization.
The Air Force says those on Capitol Hill calling for the honorable discharge of Lieutenant Flynn are missing the point.
Kelly Flynn is not innocent, but neither is the Air Force. The case has been bungled from the beginning.
But at Minot Air Force Base, commanders say adultery causes dissension in the ranks. Flynn's affair with this married civilian devastated his Air Force wife. She wrote the Secretary of the Air Force early this week asking that Lieutenant Flynn's honorable discharge be denied. Quote, less than a week after we arrived at the base, Lieutenant Flynn was in bed with my husband having sex. And Lieutenant Flynn knew we were married and not separated, but that did not stop her. And Lieutenant Flynn's former lover, Mark Zygo, has volunteered to testify against her, telling prosecutors she knew he was married. She says he told her he was legally separated.
Had there been no Mark Zygo, and had I not believed in him and trusted his word, I would not be in this position to begin with.
As the Secretary of the Air Force nears a decision, commanders inside the military warn that all the focus on the adultery charge blurs the more serious breakdown of discipline in an affair Lieutenant Flynn tried to hide. For today, Jim Avila, NBC News, Minot, North Dakota.
It is 7:12, and now here's Matt.
Katie, thank you. Now to the Oklahoma City bombing trial where the prosecution rested its case on Wednesday. The defense begins today. With thoughts on that, we welcome noted defense attorney Roy Black, and from the courthouse in Denver, NBC's David Gregory. Gentlemen, good morning to both of you.
Morning, Matt.
David, let's start with you. The prosecution ended its case the same way they began it, by talking about the emotion and the pain suffered by victims, family members of victims, and by survivors. How did it go over in the courtroom?
Just as emotionally as you can imagine, just as emotionally as the beginning of the case. Here you had this combination of the haunting images of bodies being identified by a medical examiner who presents the death certificates to the jury and talks about how you identify a body, fingerprints, an x-ray, even a birthmark, combined with the testimony of Miss Rogers, who worked on the 3rd floor, another one of these walking wounded, somebody who survived the blast, who tells of the horror, sort of speaks for the dead on every floor of that building, talking about a meeting she was in and the women that she was sitting with who simply disappeared because the floor left from under them. The building collapsed and they were gone.
Roy, in the opening statements of the prosecution, they said, we're going to prove how and why Timothy McVeigh bombed that federal building in Oklahoma City. Did they accomplish that?
Well, you know, they told a great story, and they told a very dramatic story. But there are still holes in this story. They don't have anybody showing McVeigh actually setting the bomb, setting the fuse off. There are holes in the story, but let's face it, they put together a pretty compelling narrative. And when you add it all together, it's a pretty overwhelming case.
David, do you think the prosecution kept its promise in terms of how and why?
I think they did, and they don't have to prove motive, and yet they've got all of this ammunition, and it's not just his writings, it's not just what his anti-government views were, but it's what he told close friends and family like his sister when he talks about going into the action phase, what he tells his friend about going from a mindset of the intellectual to the animal. There is this marked shift in his attitude that becomes more aggressive. It goes beyond, I don't like the government. It goes to, I want to do something about it. Yeah, but just proving motive really doesn't prove anything. You know, there are people say things all the time. I'm going to do this, I'm going to that, I'm going to kill my wife. But how often do they do it? Well, so the mere stating of the motive, I don't think, is enough. No, but they also have the benefit of in the context of all of the evidence, some really great common sense arguments. Don't forget, at the end of the day, they can say, isn't it ironic, like Alanis Morissette would say, that this guy's arrested 75 miles north of the crime scene in exactly the time it would take you to get there, and he's got residue from a bomb all over him, highly combustible and highly explosive elements.
But David, you know that Jones is going to come up with an explanation for that residue. If he doesn't have an explanation for that, let's face it, they're in serious trouble. But they have some alternative theories to explain that.
Let me move on for a second. Roy, did the prosecution do a good enough job of insulating themselves from this report about the FBI crime lab in Washington and their handling of evidence in this case?
Matt, they didn't do a good job. They did a brilliant job. I mean, they managed to pare down their case. They got rid of everybody who was criticized in the report. Judge May stopped the defense and cross-examination from going into virtually 95% of that. I mean, the government, I think, did a brilliant job in protecting that part of the case.
David, let's look ahead as the defense opens its case today. Do you expect them to present as streamlined a case as the prosecution presented?
I think so. I think they're going to pare down what they've presented. They originally told the prosecution they had 200 witnesses that they were going to call. I mean, that's common in preparation for your case, but still I think they're going to pare it down. I think, as Roy suggests, there will be some suggestion of alternative theories, specifically sort of the shadow defense, and that is that there are shadows lurking around the corner, the real terrorists. Who was that guy who got out of the Ryder truck that Dana Bradley sees, as Kelly O'Donnell's piece pointed out? Who was with Robert Kling when he rented the truck? Who's the guy that the delivery man from the Hunan Palace in Junction City sees in room 25 at the Dreamland Motel? Again, the power of suggestion that it had to be somebody else besides McVeigh, since nothing ties him directly to the scene except this residue, but nobody can actually place him there.
Roy, is John Doe number 2, the person we heard so much about in the months prior to this trial, the defense's best chance to create reasonable doubt?
Yes and no. I mean, just the fact that there's a co-conspirator doesn't mean that that's a defense. But if you can come up with a different conspiracy where McVeigh is some sort of a dupe or just happens to be there, then that's a defense. Remember, they have, you know, Steve Jones had 2 years to work on this case. He went all around the world tracking down all these conspiracy theories. You know, there's people in this town in Oklahoma. There are terrorists in the Middle East. I'll tell you, in order for McVeigh to have any chance, they better come up with a good alternative theory of somebody else who did this. And if they don't, the only person left is McVeigh.
Roy Black, David Gregory, thanks again, guys.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks,
7:17. Once again, here's Katie.
Okay, Matt, thank you. Should a mother who cannot care for herself be allowed to care for her children? That's the issue in an almost unprecedented court case in New Jersey. NBC's Rahema Ellis has the story of a mother who's disabled but very determined.
Diane May is trying to tell us something, blinking once for yes, twice for no.
Diane, do you want your children to live with you? Is there any reason that you wouldn't be able to care for your children?
Because her children, all boys, ages 12, 8, 5, and 2, are the focus of a bitter custody battle, this is one of the few images of them we can show. But their toys still fill Diane's home, remnants of her former life.
One day everything was absolutely normal, and the next day, upside down.
In November 1994, just weeks after the birth of her 4th son, Diane suffered a crippling brainstem stroke. Her mind was not affected, but she has almost no voluntary control over her body from the neck down, except for her left thumb, which she uses to operate a computer. It's her only way to speak.
Sadly, my husband has been unable to stick with me through these traumatic times. What I have been most devastated by has been the loss of my children. When my husband left me, he took our children with him. I have been and continue to fight this.
Diane's extraordinary custody battle has taken her to this New Jersey courthouse. Her husband, who stayed with her for 1 year after her stroke, refused our request for an interview, but told the judge he is the more capable parent. In court papers, Dan May said, Diane is unable to move other than blinking her eyes. Therefore, she cannot care for herself or our children. But Diane was recently given partial custody of her children. They stay with her on alternate weekends and several days each week. She's now trying to convince the court she's capable of caring for them full-time. Diane's mother has no doubts.
The important thing here is the mental and the emotional
factors that are involved and teaching them to be responsible adults. And she certainly can do that.
What she can't do, Diane says others can, and her family and friends are with her constantly.
A lot of family, extended family, and lots of good friends, and they're still here.
But Dan May, the children's father, told the court those family members create a circus-like atmosphere when the children visit their mother. Another reason he's fighting for custody.
Push away, and turn in.
Doctors say there is little chance that 38-year-old Diane will ever be able to move on her own again, but that hasn't stopped her from trying to prove them wrong.
She really has made tremendous progress.
Come on.
Diane undergoes 15 hours of grueling physical therapy each week.
Our philosophy and objective is to keep Diane in its best physical possible condition that we can so that she can take advantage of all of her neurologic recovery.
She has a hurt body, but her mind is not any different. And that's why we're fighting for Diane, because it's still Diane. The outside has changed, but it's still Diane. I'm sorry.
Sometime this summer, a judge is expected to decide if Diane gets to be the mother she still wants to be. For today, Rahima Ellis, NBC News, Pequannock, New Jersey.
It is 7:21. We'll be back in a moment. This is Today on NBC.
An elderly driver ignored a red light, killing Karen's teenage son. Kara watched her twin sister meet her death, going over 110 miles per hour.
She died when I held her hand. I know to the second when I lost her.
Inside the mind of a reckless driver.
I was cutting through a red light so I wouldn't have to stop. That's just the way I've always driven and I always will.
Don't put other people's lives in danger just because you want to have fun.
You're going to kill somebody.
If it happens, maybe I'll change my ideas then.
Next, Lisa.
It knows no boundaries or backgrounds, no race, color, or creed. It happens to be asthma.
And it affects me. And me.
And me. Whether it's the trees, green grass, pollution, or our dog that triggers asthma symptoms, it's something millions of us have in common. But now there are new ways to help control it. So talk to your doctor or call toll-free for your information kit about new asthma treatments.
Call.
You really should call.
Things can be different.
Lee Newman's a unique men's store, and our customers enjoy buying in an intimate one-on-one atmosphere. Are we conservative? Are we high fashion? No, I would say we're classically great-looking clothes.
We sell some of the finest clothing made in the world. Most of it is out of Italy.
Our store has the best merchandise, the best colors, the newest fabrics.
Our buying is very selective.
We buy with our customers in mind.
Lee Newman's a store that's well worthwhile visiting before you spend your money somewhere else.
The Goods Memorial Day celebration is on now. Absolutely everything is on sale. Make no deposit, no payments, and pay no interest till January 1998. Plus, in honor of the Southampton, Hatfield, and Fraser grand openings, you can enter to win a vacation getaway, tickets to the Phillies, and plenty of furniture items. And this Saturday only, visit any one of our new locations and enjoy complimentary refreshments, live music, receive a free Goods prize bag, and more. Only at Goods Furniture. Discover the good life.
Coming up in the next half hour, Dr. Art Ulean's series on allergy relief, part 2.
Looking forward to that. Also, we'll be talking with 12-year-old Melissa Raglin, who can't play catcher on her Little League team because she refuses to wear a protective cup like the boys. I kid you not. We'll tell you more about it, but first, local news.
Rain. I love the rain. I'm responsible for what you don't see at the park. Weeds. We need a spray that kills weeds wherever they grow, pretty much everywhere. We use Roundup. Roundup kills the whole weed, roots included.
I use it at home, not just in the driveways or sidewalks, but around trees, walls, fencing.
Just about anywhere weeds are a problem. Roundup, no roots, no weeds, no problem.
It's a trip to paradise, and this man has lost his vacation money. And so has he. This man was carrying cash. But he insisted on American Express traveler's checks. So while he had no one to turn to, this man called American Express as he tried calling home. With just one phone call, American Express can refund your lost or stolen traveler's checks just about any time, any place. Don't take chances. Take American Express traveler's checks, the smart way to do more.
Tomorrow on Today, our summer concert series is back. Join the crowds outside Studio 1A as James Taylor kicks off our musical season tomorrow on Today.
Dateline Friday. How fast is too fast? How scary is too scary? Get ready to scream because we're taking you on the latest, most outrageous roller coasters. Dateline Friday.
You're watching Philadelphia's NBC 10. Now, live from the News Center, this is News 10.
Good morning at 7:25. I'm Connie Cola with the latest from News 10. And topping our news this morning, a court date in the mainline murder case. Craig Rabinowitz faces a preliminary hearing today in Narberth. Rabinowitz is charged with murdering his wife Stephanie at the couple's home in Marion. Prosecutors are expected to argue Rabinowitz's huge financial debts may have been the motive to kill his wife in order to collect on her life insurance. An update this morning in the Amy Willard murder case. In a News 10 exclusive, sources say new witnesses are helping police close in on that killer. It's been 11 months since Amy Willard was stopped on the Blue Route. Her body was found a day later in a lot in North Philadelphia. Now, a highly placed source tells News 10, quote, "We're almost certain we know who did it. We just have to prove it." Sources say 2 witnesses have given police new information to lead them to the killer. One witness reportedly came forward after the Willard case was featured on a recent episode of Unsolved Mysteries here on NBC 10. And prosecutors could wrap up their case today in the Megan Kanka murder trial. More gripping testimony yesterday from the Mercer County medical examiner. Jurors saw a graphic photo of the deep purple marks on Megan's neck. The medical examiner testified the 7-year-old was likely strangled with a belt. Jesse Temendekwas is charged with killing and raping that little girl in the summer of 1994. Well, let's find out about the roadways now. If you're on your way to work or school, Max Fier is in the News 10 Metro Traffic Center. Good morning, Max.
Good morning, Connie. Well, a little extra crowded once again on the 42 freeway heading up toward the Walt Whitman Bridge. We'll go to a map of South Jersey and focus on 42 northbound. Actually, this is not our map. This is a live view of 95 in Delaware County. Flipping back to the map, here's the delay. It's jammed from 544 to 55 with right lane construction, and 55 is backed up to Deptford, Almanessa. Now, on 95 in Delaware County, we've been watching out for sun glare delays for northbound motorists. We haven't seen anything substantial at this point, just increased volume at this time heading up to the Blue Route 476. And finally, southbound 95 in Philadelphia, dragging from approaching Cotman through Girard. Connie, back to you.
Thanks for the update, Max. And over to Bill Henley now to find out about your Thursday and weekend forecast.
Connie, I'm happy to report there will be sun glare problems all day today. Sunshine will be with us, and so will windy conditions, too, much like yesterday. Heading out the door right now, we do have clear skies and temperatures slowly warming up. So far, they've been in the 40s and low 50s. Today, windy and sunny, 68 the high. Tonight, clear and cool, down to 47 degrees. This will be the last day. Our afternoon highs are in the 60s. Tomorrow, warmer air moving in, 74 the high, 77 on Saturday. Still a possibility of showers come Sunday. Connie?
All right, thanks, Bill. Coming up tomorrow morning here on News 10 Today from 5:30 to 7, we'll bring you all the latest news, weather, and traffic. And Philadelphia gets ready to take a bite out of the Big Apple in a Flyers-Rangers sandwich challenge involving both cities' mayors. That's tomorrow on News 10 Today, right here before the Today Show. And that's going to do it for now. I'm Connie Cola. We'll have more local news for you coming up in 1/2 hour. Now back to the Today Show here on NBC 10. Have a great day. And if you're staying home, we'll see you back here for News 10 at 11 a.m.
News 10 Newsbreak sponsored by Ovation, the Arts Network.
How good can television be? This good. Ovation, the only television network devoted exclusively to the arts, is currently not available where you live. But you can change that. Just call 1-888-ART-VOTE and tell your cable operator you want Ovation, the Arts Network. There's no cost, no obligation. To get the best that television has to offer, stand up for Ovation.
New Jersey has always been about growth, and not just on our 1 million acres of farmland. New Jersey's growth is also evident by the thriving businesses that call the Garden State home. So if you're looking to relocate or expand your business, find out how New Jersey provides the ideal business climate. Call 1-888-9-PROSPER. Prosperity New Jersey, a partnership between private business and the New Jersey Department of Commerce and Economic Development.
40 years after combining the luxury of the most exclusive cars with the performance of the most exotic, It hasn't missed a beat. Presenting Pontiac Bonneville. Now available with a special limited time lease offer that will really make your heart pound. Bonneville, the latest expression of luxury with attitude.
Check out Bonneville at your Pontiac dealer today.
The American Indian Arts Festival Memorial Day weekend at the Rancocas Indian Reservation, Burlington County, New Jersey. Call 609-261-4747.
You're watching NBC 10.
And we're back at 7:30 on this Thursday morning. It's the 22nd day of May, 1997, with a look at the folks who have come down to the corner of 49th Street and Rockefeller Center to spend the morning with us. And we should tell you that tomorrow morning, out there in that very spot, James Taylor will be performing. So if you're in the New York area, you may want to come down for our free concert, part of the beginning of our summer concert series.
So it's T-1, is that what we're saying?
Exactly. Very exciting, yes. And meanwhile, back inside Studio 1A, I'm Katie Couric, here with Matt Lauer and Al Roker. And coming up in this half hour, we're going to tell you the story of a 12-year-old girl named Melissa Raglin. She was suspended from her youth league baseball team for not wearing a protective cup like all the boys. Well, there may be a solution. She could be back behind the plate by tonight. We'll talk with her and her mom in just a few minutes. Matt?
Katie, 45 states now have some version of Megan's Law requiring that communities be notified when sex offenders are released in their midst. Now, after a little experience, there are some real questions about whether that law is effective or even if it's legal. We'll talk with people who know both sides in this half hour.
And Sheen Shallot will be along with a review of the new Jurassic Park sequel called The Lost World. First, though, the news headlines from Ann Curry. Ann, good morning again.
Good morning again, Katie. Today, the defense of Timothy McVeigh begins in the Oklahoma City bombing trial. Defense attorney Stephen Jones is expected to call about 30 witnesses to attack every point the prosecution has made. He is expected to call a survivor of the bombing who says she saw another man, not McVeigh, get out of that Ryder truck. The Senate is expected to pass a balanced budget deal today. The measure was almost killed Wednesday by an attempt to boost cigarette taxes to pay for child health care programs. Last night, the Shuttle Atlantis undocked from the Russian space station Mir. This after astronaut Michael Foale replaced Jerry Linenger aboard the Mir. Linenger is set to come home aboard the Mir on Saturday after 4 months in space. Meanwhile, back on Earth this morning, Linda Finch is a step closer to finishing the round-the-world route that Amelia Earhart attempted 60 years ago. Finch landed Wednesday in Hawaii, her last stop before heading back to Oakland, California, where she began 2 months ago. It is now 7:32, time for the weather, and Al.
Today's weather is brought to you by Nicorette Gum. You can do it. Nicorette can help.
And good morning, and we've got a lot of folks hanging out here. So, now, are you, Gig'em, what's Gig'em Aggies?
From Texas A&M.
Yeah? What's Gig'em?
Gig'em, it's just something we say. Gig'em Ag.
Gig'em Ag.
Yeah.
How many of you here from Texas? Wow, my golly, that is a big group. Okay. All right. And Cracker Jacks. Thank you. Candy-coated popcorn, peanuts, and a prize. There you go. Well, thank you very much. Well, let's check it out. Show you what your weather is like for today, and you will see that we've got quite a bit of cloudiness from the Rockies right on into the Gulf Coast states. A lot of heavy weather there, strong storms as you get into the parts of the Rockies, especially the eastern Rockies. Sunshine here in the northeast through the Ohio Valley. Mississippi Valley looks pretty good. Out west, not too bad, although some showers. Northern California coast on into the southwestern Oregon coast as well. That's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the...
Looking good today. Good morning. I'm Bill Henley with your Earthwatch forecast. Lots of wind once again today, but we'll see plenty of sunshine. The wind will keep our afternoon high in the 60s today, 68 degrees later today. 5-day forecast, though, shows a warming trend. Tomorrow up to 74 with lots of sunshine. Few clouds on Saturday, but up to 77 degrees and a possibility of showers, maybe even a thunderstorm, come Sunday, 73 the high. Have a great day.
And happy 99th birthday to Doris Hawks. Who's Doris Hawks?
My mother.
Your mom?
She's in a convalescent home in Santa Maria.
Well, we hope that she's having a happy birthday, one more year. And you know who'll wish her happy birthday? Willard Scott.
Willard will come back for that.
He hasn't gone away. In fact, he's down in Virginia right now. Uncle Willie.
Tell her I'll come back today. I won't wait till next year.
She's not even going to. You want to wish her mother, Doris Hawks, a happy birthday, Willard?
God bless. Happy birthday to your mother. Beautiful lady. Wish you the very best.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, listen, Al, the other day, 2 nights ago, I was at the Opera House in Wilmington, Delaware, and guess what?
What?
I danced with Chubby Checkers.
Get out.
We did the twist, the greatest act in the world.
Man, I'd pay money to see that.
It was fabulous. I've got it on tape. I'll sell it at Christmas.
Well, thank goodness you got those knees done.
And thank goodness I got some real entertainment in the background, too. The new Liberty Bluegrass Band, Sky Meadow State Park, just off Route 50 and 17 in Virginia, where this coming Sunday we will have the Strawberry Festival. And it's not going to rain, is it, Al? You're going to do your little dance in your shorts and make sure it doesn't happen. There'll be strawberry ice cream, strawberry shortcake, honest-to-goodness strawberry jam to take home, and beautiful children to come have fun. Everything that kids like to do, that's what we'll be doing. So check us out. We'll be here this morning, and we want to see you this coming Sunday. Happy birthday from Smuckers. Smuckers sent us this, by the way. You can't beat their strawberry jam. If you got to be in a jam, make it Smuckers. Florence Willis, Amarillo, Texas, is 100. She was a missionary during World War I. And a beautiful lady. Happy birthday to you. Bessie, sweet Bessie Lane of Harvest, Alabama, is 101, still enjoys reading and traveling, and she's a most attractive lady. She's the pride of Harvest, Alabama. Lucille Brown of Baraboo, Wisconsin, is 105, still lives on her own, and is in excellent health. And you can't beat that. And on this beautiful morning that God gave us, how sweet it is. And we again invite you to the festival this coming Sunday. We'll talk about that later. Now back to New York, and here's my friend Matt Lauer.
Willard, thank you very much. In 1994, the brutal murder of a 7-year-old girl provoked public outrage and sparked legislative action. Megan Kanka's parents thought she was safe in their New Jersey neighborhood. They had no idea convicted child molester Jesse Temendekwas lived across the street. Now Temendekwas is on trial for raping and strangling Megan after allegedly luring her into his home. The trial has renewed focus on Megan's Law, which requires the state to notify residents if a convicted sex offender moves into their community. The law has been ineffective because of court challenges. Geoffrey Berman is the Kanka's attorney. Elisabeth Semel is with the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Ms. Semel, let's start with you. 45 states have some form of Megan's Law, but obviously there are court challenges being faced right now. What's your main problem with Megan's Law or community notification?
Well, I think we have to distinguish between registration, which requires convicted sex offenders from registering with to register with law enforcement so that law enforcement knows their whereabouts, versus notification, which puts an affirmative duty on law enforcement officers to notify vast members of the public, or sometimes even on the offenders themselves to notify the public. That's the distinction that I think is critical.
But if we're talking about community notification, what's your problem with members of a community, residents of a community, knowing if across the street there is a convicted child molester living there?
Well, I think the problem first and foremost is that it creates the illusion of safety. The reality is that a third of offenders are incest offenders. Another 50% are related in some way, not close family members, but relatives or known to the family. So notification is absolutely useless in those situations. And we've created a whole very complicated and costly system that is not going to make people safe.
So are you not concerned that the rights of these offenders are being jeopardized?
I am concerned, but I think that that's only a part of the picture. The concern I have, of course, is that some of these notification laws are so onerous and frankly so outrageous that they will make it impossible for individuals to reintegrate into any community whatsoever, to be employed, to live, for incest offenders to reunite with families. So I think we have to look at the big picture.
On that note, though, what do you say to the people who say, yes, this will be inconvenient for these offenders to regain any sense of a normal life, but is that inconvenience more important than the potential life of a child?
I don't think it's a question of inconvenience or sympathy. I think also it's a question of practicality. It's not a question of something that's simply burdensome. It's a question of something that doesn't work, and again, that gives people an illusion of safety, but not the reality.
Mr. Berman, let's talk about whether it works or not. Obviously, it's early in the life of Megan's Law. We don't really know what effect it will have in some of the states because it's caught in the court. How do you know it will reduce child molestation?
Well, clearly the notification provision will help towards eliminating and addressing this huge problem in the country. because what it does is it notifies the parents in the community that a real danger exists in that community, and that the parents can tell the children, look, you see that house, don't go in that house. You see that person, don't talk to that person. It gives parents another weapon to combat this very serious crime.
How do you fight the argument, though, that people who say this is the scarlet letter approach and it's not going to be nearly as effective as some sort of real formal treatment for these offenders to prevent them from trying to do this again?
Well, treatment does not cure the urge for these individuals to commit these crimes. So no one's against treatment. You can treat these individuals, and that's fine. But while they're being treated, there should also be notification, because the problem is real, and there is no cure for this kind of compulsive behavior.
Let's point out the fact that less than 15% of sex offenders are receiving any form of treatment. So one of the problems, again, is looking at the big picture. We are not treating these individuals. We do know from studies that have been done that treatment reduces recidivism, and that's something everyone is concerned about with any offender.
Well, there are many studies that say that treatment is completely ineffective.
Well,
so you really can't,
I couldn't
place
disagree.
a lot of reliance on these kind of studies.
I couldn't disagree more. I mean, the Oshkosh Correctional Institute, for example, the Department of Justice, all sorts of agencies that have looked at what few treatment programs are available show a 55%, approximately 55% reduction in recidivism. That's a substantial number. The fact is we've never made that investment. We're now going into a system of notification that will be very, very costly, estimated millions of dollars a year for this notification
You know
problem.
that parents at home right now, I don't mean to interrupt you, but parents at home right now are saying, I don't care about the cost.
I understand they are, but to say that this is penny wise and pound foolish is a gross understatement. What is going to happen, I think we also have to look at the harsh reality, is that when we see, as we have now in a couple of states, that individuals' homes have been burned, that their families, that is their innocent family members, their children, their ex-spouses have been ostracized, that people have received death threats when they've employed these individuals.
Look.
Individuals will not report, will not register, will go underground, and then the risk to the community is even greater.
Mr. Berman?
These instances are very isolated, and it's important to recognize that the victims here are not the convicted sex offenders. What you're trying to do is protect the children in these communities. So let's try and keep our focus on what's really important here.
Mr. Berman, based on studies that show that the public is overwhelmingly in support of some form of notification system, do you think it's inevitable that these laws will in some form stay on the book?
I think it is inevitable, and I think ultimately a decision is going to be made by the federal appellate courts across the country and ultimately by the Supreme Court concerning the constitutionality of the law. And then I think once that's determined, I think the laws will be in all 50 states.
I think the answer is that some laws range from the absolutely outrageous to the more sensible. We can hope that as the courts look at them, they will uphold the more sensible and the more sane and the more workable and strike down those which really don't serve the public interest.
Elisabeth Semel, Geoffrey Berman, thank you both. It's 7:42. Next, a 12-year-old baseball player banished to the outfield because she won't wear a protective cup. That's after these messages.
When we decided to have a baby, we knew we had to stop smoking first.
We had the motivation. We needed the help.
We chose Nicorette gum because it was flexible. It gave us the choice of 2 strengths, one for light smokers, me.
One for heavy smokers, me.
And the power to decide, how much to use and when to use it to fight our cravings.
We've been officially smoke-free for a year now.
And in gratitude, we're thinking of calling the baby Nicorette. It's a joke, honey.
Nicorette gum will help you quit smoking successfully by helping you control your cravings. You can do it. Nicorette can help.
Alzheimer's disease is the loss of memory. It gets so bad that they may not recognize their son, their daughter, their wife, their husband. But the real need is to stop the progressive nature of the disease. These are our hopes. It's not a cure, but if a woman can recognize her grandson or a husband can go for a walk with his wife, I think we've made real progress.
It says here this new Minute Maid Premium tastes like eating a fresh ripe orange. Could it be true?
I don't know, but I mean to find out. Was this extraordinary taste truly like that of a fresh ripe orange? I would not rest until I knew. Finally, there came the moment of truth. The taste of this fresh ripe orange was like the Minute Maid I'd savoured just 8 months prior.
New Minute Maid Premium. Bite into it.
You've got hopes. You've got dreams. You've got an extra day off. You've got places to go, things to do, and stuff to buy. You've got one house, 2 hands, and 3 days. Better hurry. The best prices of the summer are just around the corner.
The Money Pit. It's supposed to cost you $179 million to clean up this toxic mess. Now the price is doubled. Should we get stuck with the bill? The Fleecing of America. NBC Nightly News tonight.
Now to the story of 12-year-old Melissa Raglin. She was the starting catcher for the Boca Raton Youth League Dodgers until earlier this week when she was banished to the outfield for refusing to wear the protective cup required for all catchers in the league. But Pat Raglin, Melissa's mom, says why protect what she doesn't have? Melissa and her mom, Pat, join us from their home in Boca Raton, Florida. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Okay, Melissa, let me start with you. How did this whole thing get started?
Well, it was the first playoff game, and as I was going out to warm up the pitcher, the umpire stopped me and asked me if I was wearing a cup.
And what did you say?
Well, I turned around and go, no, because I'm a girl.
And what did he say?
He goes, well, I'm the umpire, and anybody that catches for me has to wear a cup.
Now, did you know about this regulation that you were required to wear a jock strap and a cup?
No, I didn't know about this.
So, since this happened, have you been permitted to play at all?
Well, I'm allowed to play out in the outfield, but I can't play catcher unless I wear something protective like a cup or something.
Meanwhile, what have your teammates had to say about this?
They just think it's really ridiculous that I have to wear a cup or just for me to have to go through this.
Now, Pat, officials for the Boca Raton Little League say that Melissa can play her position as catcher if she wears the female version of a protective cup. I understand that you investigated this option and basically people at a sporting goods store laughed at you? Is that what happened?
I called last Friday evening and Saturday to all the sporting goods I could find in the phone book, all the companies, and they all just laughed. They said, for a woman, there isn't such a thing.
In the meantime, Melissa, you did wear a cup to one game, but not in the proper place. Tell me what you did.
Well, the rules states that you just have to wear a cup. It doesn't tell you where. So I just wore it under my shin guard on my ankle, and I got to play one inning catcher.
Aha, and then they banished you again to the outfield, is that right?
Yeah, because the president found out, so she just told me I couldn't play catcher unless I wore a cup in the right place. So
Pat,
I had to go out to the outfield.
Pat, how do you feel, or what do you think of the league officials and how they've handled this whole thing? And can you understand their concern, frankly, for Melissa? Obviously, it's not as important for a girl as it is a boy, but couldn't she be hurt possibly if a foul ball hits her hard in the wrong spot?
Well, I called her doctor's office, and they assured me that a girl did not need to wear a cup. And I've also heard from other doctors that a woman doesn't need to wear protective gear there. But I really don't understand why a girl would have to wear that. I really don't.
I understand, Pat, that the bike athletic company is rushing new protective cup for women, and it should reach your home today, so Melissa can play catcher tonight. Is that your understanding?
Well, yes, that's what my understanding is, that we're supposed to be having something delivered to us today.
Melissa, are you hoping
I don't know.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, Pat.
I don't know if she's going to wear it. I don't know if she's going to wear it or not. She hasn't seen it. We got something last night, and it just looks like a glorified jockstrap, and I don't think she would wear that.
Melissa, you're trying to change this rule for all girls, is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, well, let us know what happens. Melissa and Pat Raglin, thanks so much for talking with us this morning. Good luck to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still to come this morning on Today, Dr. Art Uleen continues his series on allergies. Gene Shalit reviews the sequel to Jurassic Park, and one of its stars will join us live, Julie Ann Moore. But right now, this is Today on NBC.
Oh, look at their eyes!
Okay, line them up, get them ready, and move them out.
It's Mitsubishi's Get 'em Gone Marathon. Through Memorial Day, buy Eclipse with 0 down payment. Get 0% financing and no payments for 90 days.
Wow, I'll save thousands.
And not just on Eclipse, on Mirage, Diamante, 3000 GT, Galant, even Montero and Montero Sport. Through Memorial Day. Built for living in the tri-state area.
You know, the Mohawk and Algonquin fished on this lake. When my dad brought me here, I don't think there were this many fish. You caught that trout with a blue-jointed Rapala?
Yep.
This is George Pataki, reminding you that New York's lakes are full of life.
Siemens Furniture is celebrating Memorial Day with huge reductions in every department. Shop regular store hours all weekend long and special hours Monday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. All living room pieces and packages, all leather and all motion furniture is on sale right now. Plus, see Siemens Memorial Day sale circular for even more savings. And when you use your Siemens Plus credit card, you'll make no down payment, no payments, and pay no interest until November. For selection and savings that are truly memorable, see Siemens first.
Their world is not yours. Their world is discovery and adventure. Their world is hope and dream and the promise of love. And nothing bad ever happens in their world. We are all immortal. If only their world was real.
Find the time. Talk with your teen about drinking and driving. For help, call this number.
Sponsored by the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board.
Oh, isn't that nice? One of the big events that moviegoers have been anticipating is Steven Spielberg's sequel to Jurassic Park, The Lost World. Wait no longer, it's here. And here's Gene Shalit in his Critics' Corner.
Good morning and welcome to the Critics' Corner. The world's fascination with dinosaurs will be intensified with the release of Steven Spielberg's remarkable new